So I'm happy that I'm allowed to introduce Andrea Mayr-Stalder, our keynote speaker for today. Andrea is the designer and creator of TurtleStitch, an embroidery programming dialect of Snap. Andrea has been playing around with thread and fabric for quite a while. In an interview, she said she started sewing when she was still a teenager, and she did that quite obsessively. Then she turned towards visual media design, but went back to the textiles after she stumbled upon a digital embroidery machine. And this was also when the idea of TurtleStitch was born, to create a visual programming language that could teach kids and also adults alike about programming and computer science by combining it with physical materials in the real world. And TurtleStitch has been a continued success, and Andrea will tell us today more about the TurtleStitch community, which is growing continually, and the power of the diverse group that TurtleStitch is. So Andrea wants to say a few welcoming words, and then I'm going to play her keynote. Andrea will be there the whole time answering questions in the chat and observing the chat. So feel free to ask your questions during the keynote, and we'll try to answer them right away in the chat or afterwards. So welcome, Andrea. Thanks, and great that you're here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. Actually, Jatka, you said everything, but I just wanted to say, when I wanted to say hello, I am here in the chat, and Jatka is going to start the video now. I pre-recorded it because in the test session, I realized that there could be, that there are several issues that could happen when I share videos. So actually I recorded it, and have fun. I'm available here, and also later at the question and answer moment or session, whatever, maybe 10 minutes will still be available.
Okay,
Fine
I will
me.
start
Let's
the video.
Yeah.
I will start the video now. In case you can't hear the sound, let me know, then I'll try to fix this.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to hold this keynote here at the SNAP conference 2021. I'm talking here out of my TurtleStitch universe. You probably realized that it is the shape of a turtle I'm speaking to you from. In the background, there are some hands on the wall. There's a drawing. My daughter did this. I think it's a perfect environment to talk about TurtleStitch. The title of my talk is TurtleStitch: The Power of Diversity. Diversity is a big word in today's world. It doesn't matter in what entity we are thinking about it, if it is family, if it is a city, a nation. It's crucial everywhere. And when I think and talk about diversity in TurtleStitch, I also realized that there are still areas where we could do better. But I think in general, TurtleStitch is a tool which attracts a huge or a big variety of users already. And this is what I'm going to talk about. And I also think it makes sense to take a short look back and describe how TurtleStitch developed. And this is the reason why I want to go back to 2008. I was deeply interested in textiles in my teenage years, and later I was working in technology. So at around 2008, there was this moment where I don't exactly remember when it was, but I passed by a shop window and an embroidery machine was presented there. So it met these two interests that I had, one in the textile and the other in technology, and I liked to dig around in operating systems. And as this machine had an operating system, I wanted to have it, and I could organize to get a funding, and I started a collaboration with a fashion designer. Her name is Dominic Raffer, and she has a fashion label here in Vienna. What we then did is we asked in our friends circle if somebody is around or whoever is interested to jump with us into this experimental phase with this embroidery machine. And of course, there were interested persons. So we started to do research, and what we found out was that there was a huge amount of proprietary file formats for embroidery around. Unfortunately, there was no open document file format, and we had got to deal with the proprietary ones. We were looking for documentation on the web, and we found, and we did our first very experimental abstract embroideries, and this is what we put together for a fashion show. But the point that I want to come to is that it was this experimental and open-ended approach, and it was very important for us to see what is possible. And I want to take the chance and to describe a little bit what's it about if you run such a process, and what are the what are some good conditions for it. So if it's possible, it's good that you have no tight deadlines. Of course, this is in general, this is hard, because if you get a project funded, usually funding is always combined with deadlines. It's good if you have diverse peers. So that's what we reached when we asked our friends if they want to jump in and start looking into it with us. It is important that you have some kind of intrinsic motivation, that something drives you, that there is a very specific spirit in your mind that tells you you want to do this. You don't really know why, but you have got to do that. Of course, out of this comes fun, but you also need to be patient because there are these moments where things doesn't really work out on the fly, and you have got to take a closer look and to work a little bit harder. You know, this aspect of having hard fun. I guess you know what I mean. It's also good if you have supporters. Think about the situation. If you're a young student, you don't really have, maybe you don't really have money, and you need something very specific, a special thread or a special piece of textile in that context. Is also good if you have that kind of support, or if you need a connection to reach the one or the other thing. I mean, supporters are always important. And as soon as it's possible, it's also good if you start to work on a perspective, or if you could define a goal. So let's have a look at this short movie, which shows two of those experiments. So this video was put together in 2014, and it was used as an application video for the relaunch of our project as an educational project. So it was the thing that we found out as a goal, as a perspective after doing these experiments for a while. And when we talk about we, it's now time to mention that my partner in this project since these early days is Michael Aschauer. Hi, Michael. Here you are, at least in an image, and I'm probably also at the listeners of the keynote. Uh, Michael and me had worked together already for about 10 years, and in an educational project parallel to the experiments we did with the embroidery machine. And what we did, and I want to just show it very briefly because it was such a cool project. We published Yux. It was a Linux Live CD. Every 2 years we had a new a focus on a group of users, so from kindergarten kids to youngsters. And it was interesting and very uh, good software involved. We did research about the open source software tools that were around, did documentation and put them together under a designed frame for especially those groups. And when I had a look before about the tools which we involved, of course I found logo and logo derivatives, and I also found Squeak. I was very happy about it because I knew that I did intensive research in those days about what tools we could implement in our Linux Live CDs. And yes, hi, John Meloni or whoever worked on Squeak in those days. It is a predecessor of Scratch and probably also Snap. You guys know it much better than I do. But this was important to mention because, of course, it formed us also and our ideas, and this was the reason how those areas found together. The next step we had got to do is to decide which graphical programming environment we should use to set up our project on. And what we knew about already, of course, was Scratch, which was very famous already in those days. But we also knew about Snap, and it was very easy for us to decide for Snap. I mean, the main reason for us was that there was no Flash involved. We made our experiences before with Flash, and we wanted to avoid that. And on the other side, this much better and extended coding possibilities were very attractive, of course, for our embroidery approach. And the other thing was that it was a very good documented open source base around which we could use in order to set up TurtleStitch. TurtleStitch now consists of two different parts. The main part is the coding framework. You also know it from Snap. It's similar, just a little bit lighter in the design. And the other part is the community platform, which focuses more on the sharing and coding of the embroidery patterns. Happily, there are also other external resources where, for example, the Exploring Coding Stitching Culture website, which was initiated by Susan Ettenheim. So leaving the technical setup of TurtleStitch behind and thinking about culture, and more specifically about the culture of aesthetics in TurtleStitch. No matter where a person comes from, every person brings its own knowledge and aesthetic preferences. So, in its imagination about what to create, nobody starts from a blank screen, but from a diverse and lively tradition of textiles. The platform also helps to develop new perspectives on maybe traditional, but also maybe on generic patterns in different ways, in a lot of different ways. But for example, also by analyzing graphical structures and then translating it to a machine doable instruction. Machine doable is very important because you don't only have to think about what's possible on the screen, you also already in the phase of the design have got to think about what's possible physically. Another very important point is the experimental factor of trial and error. I say TurtleStitch has a tinkering approach. It has space for the experimentation using this trial and error friendly environment. And aesthetically seen, there is of course no right and wrong. Everything is possible, and beauty, of course, is subjective. Of course, thinking about the physical aspect, uh, there is a right and a wrong. If you do it in a wrong way, if you stitch it too dense, the needle breaks, and either, as I said, the needle is broken, or the textile is broken, or the thread breaks. So this makes a difference. The next point is one that I think is very important. It's essential, so to say. It is the aspect about motivation. And in TurtleStitch, and maybe also in other tools, but I realized it especially in TurtleStitch, that the motivation to correct the code or to improve the formula is determined by the aesthetic demand. So you try hard to get the code correct because you have a very specific idea about what you want to create. Another important thing is how you reach how you're successful, and for me there are three aspects relevant. The first one is persistence. So you have got to be patient and stay on the thing what you're doing. The other one is the ability also to make a compromise. If you realize that it's not possible to fulfill what you're expecting, maybe you can also get along with easing your expectation, or with easing the code. And the third aspect, or possibility to reach success, is to cooperate, to find somebody who is helping you. If you have a face-to-face situation, training situation, wherever, you could probably ask another student or somebody who is around who is also into it, or you pair up as a team and try to reach a goal together. And of course, there is the online community. And another important aspect is, of course, the whole idea about how to design a tool like Snap, Scratch, whatever, TurtleStitch. For TurtleStitch, it's also the case that it's important and it's possible that we have a low floor, that there is a low threshold for newcomers who are not trained, very well trained, who are beginners. Uh, but also that the ceiling is high, and that experienced users also have their fun and the challenge in reaching their goals. I'm not absolutely sure about the white walls thinking about TurtleStitch. I put it here in the slides, but there's also the aspect, if you probably have two white walls, you get lost. I don't know. I'm not absolutely sure about how to think about the white walls, because TurtleStitch has a very specific approach. We are very clear on the embroidery thing, and we're discussing this regularly with Michael, what we should open up, or if we should stay just very small and don't widen up the walls too much. So how does TurtleStitch foster diversity? How does it reach to attract a wide range of different persons? So one important point is that it is a free tool. So it is absolutely essential that it is a free or open source software tool for being used in schools. There is no way around. Another very important point is that what we found out pretty early, that it attracts or offers diverse entry points for different persons. So initially we thought it would probably be more a project for girls, but when we found out that it is no matter of gender who is being attracted by the embroidery, by the coding embroidery project, I was so really happy about that. And not talking about gender, but talking about interest, it's similar. We realized that some persons are more interested by the fact that they want to control the embroidery machine, and the others are more interested in how to combine the different textiles and to put all of these things together. Of course, TurtleStitch offers a possibility to connect to maker culture. It opens up other related fields, for example, laser cutting, which you can also have an export function in TurtleStitch. You can also prepare something for a laser cutter. We will see some examples a little bit later. A very important point is the aspect of expression as physical object. In TurtleStitch, you can code something and you can transfer it on textile, make it physical. You can carry it away. You can communicate about it. You can prove what you have done, and you can, of course, discuss it. Yeah, we had political messages. Of course, we had some advertising too for this or that brand. Children like that a lot regularly. But there are a lot of very important things that you can make. You can just make beautiful objects, and you can also have activist messages, whatever. It's just important. It doesn't really matter what you're working on and what you're doing. It's just wonderful that you can transfer it from the virtual to the physical. Another big thing is the educational settings. It's possible to use it for a lot of different situations, from primary to secondary one, secondary two, and high school, also university level. It's the thing, you know, about the low threshold at the entry point and the high ceilings in the end. I did computer science. I did trainings for computer science teachers and also arts teachers, as well as individual sessions or online sessions in group. And it's also important to keep in mind that every culture has its own traditions, as well as every person has its own individual approach to specific patterns. What TurtleStitch offers here is an open space to reimagine one's own experience. So thinking back to 2015, there was the point where we realized that TurtleStitch was not only a personal project anymore, but it turned into a platform or infrastructure that others relied on from then on. And it was the time for us to open our senses and feel the needs of our users. We started to think about the usability, write instructions, and offer support. And we realized that, of course, we are now in the responsibility about what we are doing, because in the end, TurtleStitch is about physical computing, and physical computing is tends to be there tends to be money involved, because as soon as you produce something, you've got to spend money for the tools doing it, and especially for TurtleStitch, it tends to be an embroidery machine. But I want to stop about talking about what we gave. I want to also talk about what we got from the community, and we got a lot. So getting was rich, and I started to write about this or that. And to be honest, the list tended to get longer and longer, and I just had here some words left in the frame. It was about positive reactions, positive feedbacks. It was about bug reports. We are happy about bug reports too. Suggested solutions, external fixes, small postal presents, support at our Kickstarter campaign, hosting of a TurtleStitch meeting, help at applications. But one of the most important thing is we also get friendships and friends, and this is something really wonderful. And all that things gave us a lot of motivation also also to continue the project in critical situations. But listen now to a small but diverse group of turtle stitchers who were so kind and recorded messages for this keynote sessions. And I'm going to start with City Lab from Barcelona. City Lab is a space in Cornellà near Barcelona in a former textile factory, I think. They offer family workshops where adults and children work closely from the beginning to the presentation. This is, of course, an ideal setup for TurtleStitch because these different roles in a family constellation can involve persons in unexpected ways if you have them out of their familiar context in another place. For City Lab, the goal is to involve a broad range of citizens, enabling them to think and work creatively with tech and thus participate in a society in a more engaged way.
Hi, I'm Jose from the education team of CityLab. CityLab is a laboratory to engage citizens in technological and social innovation. We are located at Cornellà, a small town very close to Barcelona, Spain. At CityLab, we have been using TurtleStitch in the last 2 years to approach technology to citizens. We always try to use technology in a funny way. For this reason, when we discovered this tool, we knew that this should be a good way to motivate either people of all ages and people with different skills.
Hi, I'm Victor. We started using TurtleStitch during summer workshops. First of all, we knew that we couldn't start it with abstract structures of code because for most of the participants it was the first time that they were programming. In order to get the users interested with the activity, we found a topic that helps them to introduce themselves to the activity. The chosen topic was biodiversity loss, specifically taking care of bees. With this objective, we created a virtual flower wall. Each user had to design one flower for it, and we can see one of the walls here.
Our method was to design health cards with a simple steps with different petal shapes. As we can see, there was a guided part of the workshop, but we always try to the users can experiment by themselves. So when they finished the first pass, they could explore and the final result was surprising.
Lately, we had the chance to test the environment with university students and teachers, and we used the same methodology. However, it was very difficult when they wanted to create more complex objects, because they didn't program before. So we did two different adaptations. First, the creation of our own blocks with shapes or characters. In this case, users only had to place the turtle on the stage and select which type of color, size, and embroidery they wanted. And second, in this other case, we used JADGA's program with a Snap version. This option is very useful for people that want to embroider logotypes or specific shapes.
At this moment, we are collaborating with TurtleStitch team and Scratchweb Netherlands in the European project Very Close. This collaboration includes enhancements to TurtleStitch workshops and the creation of materials for the community.
Thank you so much, City Lab. It is a pleasure to cooperate in the project and in TurtleStitch in general. The next presentation is from a commercial collaborator. Since last summer, I'm in regular contact with Ms. Katharina Ulci from Bernina International. It's my first contact of that sort. Also, I have tried to open up contacts to hardware manufacturers. Ms. Ulci contacted me, and it was very interesting for me to realize that there are many common interests far beyond the hardware. We got support in debugging for a specific file format, which we had already implemented, but obviously not in a perfect way. But more important, we realized that we both find it crucial to keep arguing for the arts and handcrafting in school. In order to share this aspect, I asked Mrs. Ulci to add a statement.
Hi, my name is Katerina and I'm representing the 5th generation of Bernina International. Our headquarters is based in Switzerland. We have 128 years of history in engineering, developing the latest technology for sewing and embroidery machines. I'm based in Singapore and I'm looking forward to share with you more now about our partnership with TurtleStitch, which helps us as a company to further explore opportunities in the digital world, bridging technology, creativity through coding. So we have explored the coding platform through TurtleStitch based on Snap. We have introduced it to students here in Singapore, primary and secondary school students, as well as teachers. They all love it and they see the great value behind understanding, designing their own unique design, and then merge it with our sewing machine to bring it to life through a tangible asset. So that whole process brings us as well at Bernina to think about the future of a sewing machine, for example. And it helps to strengthen our community around the globe. Together with TurtleStitch, I can see many more exciting projects coming along. And I would like to say thank you very much at this point to Andrea Mayr-Stalder, her team at TurtleStitch for the support, and we look forward to more to come beyond sewing and embroidery and coding.
Thank you, Mrs. Ulci. The next video is from Simon Mong from Suzhou, one of the centers of traditional textile culture in China. Simon runs a training space for kids from primary to about 8th grade. He knows the strength of teaching logo from an early age on, so primary school, but also offers his complex codes, ready-made blocks for older students as a kind of graphical composition elements. He wrote his own geometry library for TurtleStitch and has a perfect understanding of the possibilities and challenges in coding for the embroidery machine. He's extremely inspirational and a TurtleStitch power coder, bringing a unique sensibility and textile tradition to the community. Simon, thank you so much for your input and for all the work you're putting in TurtleStitch. I'm very, very attracted by your designs and you know it.
Hi, I'm Simon Wang. I live in Suzhou, China. I was a former teaching assistant and a research assistant in the university, and then became a developer. 6 years ago, I developed a curriculum of scratch for my friend's daughter, and I began to teach block language. And after some time, I was so lucky to find Snap. I thought Snap was super cool. It was a hacked version of Scratch. I've done a lot of projects with students with Snap. We did coded animation, coded painting, and we even control robots with Snap. And then I noticed TurtleStitch from Jens Mernick's retreats. TurtleStitch is super cool. I just can't resist the beautiful patterns and touchable results of TurtleStitch. I've done a lot of projects with students with TurtleStitch. We made bookmarks. We made embroidery pieces. And we even made lanterns. You know, not every child loves Scratch-style games, but every child loved the products of TurtleStitch. And I learned a lot from our community. I learned HTML idea from Richard Mills. I learned a lot of logo skills from Cynthia Solomon and Susan Klimczak. We are making a logo in TurtleStitch summer campus. Students do everything with logo because they are all primary school students. And for middle school students, we could provide them more ideas of math and computer science with Snap in TurtleStitch. So I think TurtleStitch is a bridge from logo to Snap. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. The next video is from Max Moosa from Nairobi, Kenya, and from one of his students. They participate in the Stitch in Time project, which is also which has a presentation here in the conference. Africa is a big continent and, of course, has in itself a big variety in cultures and traditions. I am absolutely excited by the wealth of visual expression in traditional African textiles. So in the past, there had been a lot of economic connections between Europe and Africa concerning embroideries. For TurtleStitch, I like that we have this idea of the self-empowering approach, and I like it that, for example, it is used in the African Girls Who Code initiative, or in the way how Max is using it with his students. But listen to him and his student Dorcas Litunia.
Hi, my name is Max Musau from Nairobi, Kenya. I have been in the TurtleStitch community for a few years now, and we meet weekly to collaborate on our Stitch in Time project, which has contributors from Nairobi, New York, and England, and we host local meetups at least once a month. For me, I like bringing in not only my own interests, but the ideas and interests of those around me in Nairobi. Here in Africa, we have a wealth of culture and diversity that TurtleStitch allows us to explore and re-examine in a new way, creatively and with code. Within our community, we've been able to explore concepts, old and new, and bring them to life in a new way through TurtleStitch. From basic math concepts to cultural patterns to everyday patterns. I feel like we're just scratching the surface with some of our ideas, and I believe that the sky is the limit.
Hello, my name is Dorcas Litunia from Nairobi, Kenya. I am new in the TurtleStitch community. I joined about a month ago. One of the things I really love about TurtleStitch is the fact that you can bring literally anything onto the platform and trying to make something out of it. You just need to find something that inspires you, and you're able to design it and to code it using like very abstracted code, so it's easy to learn and easy to use, so you're able to make things from the things that inspires you. So the fact that you actually put your interest together with coding makes it much more easier to use. I really love my TurtleStitch community. We have a weekly meetup on Thursday. I really look forward to it, where we share ideas, exchange what we've been doing during the week, and it really helps in case you're facing a bug or you're facing any you're facing a roadblock on your code. It really helps. So I really enjoy working with TurtleStitch. All the love from Kenya. Bye.
Thank you, Max, and thank you, Dorcas Litunia. Professor Margaret Lowe joined our group with a deep experience in the field of physical computing in education. She and her team not only used the tool, but also came with a lot of suggestions, own developments like the Raspberry Pi Zero drop stitch device, as well as their own developed curricula with openly released manual cards. I was very impressed by the finger puppet instructions, which I also used in a workshop. And I also liked the double-sided embroidery idea, which I want to follow up on.
I'm Margaret Lowe, and I'm Director of Outreach and Widening Participation for WMG at the University of Warwick. I love using TurtleStitch in our schools and community programmes. It builds a valuable link between programming and textiles and opens many creative opportunities for activities. I run physical computing workshops as outreach, and one popular way of teaching this for children is to write programs to control the behaviour of robots in a variety of different scenarios. In my experience, this gets good engagement from many students, but not all. I found TurtleStitch to have a much wider appeal. It's for this reason that I describe TurtleStitch as a different kind of physical computing. Effectively, it gives programmatic control of the machine. It enables the creation of physical, tangible objects, and it bridges the world of programming in textiles, enabling the creation of patterns on materials in a way that's accessible and appealing to young and old alike. This year, Coventry is the UK City of Culture, and many cultures have distinctive textile crafts. How textiles are decorated often celebrates the culture of their creator. To celebrate Coventry's City of Culture, we're working with local primary schools on a project called Stitch in Time. We're also joining with other groups around the world to celebrate their culture. You can hear more about this project in the Snap Conference presentation, Stitch in Time and Place, describing the work in Coventry, New York and Nairobi. It's a real joy to be part of the TurtleStitch community. The sharing of ideas, working collaboratively on activities, the creativity, the energy and support from this community is wonderful. I've greatly valued the friendships I have built through TurtleStitch with people from all around the world.
Thank you so much, Margaret. I am very happy to open the next spot into Margaret Minsky's lab at New York University in Shanghai. On the basis of her lifelong experiences in the local context, as well as artistic approaches with insight into textile manufacturing, she has developed a curriculum for her students. Let her explain for herself.
I'm Margaret Minsky. I'm at New York University, Shanghai, Interactive Media Arts program. I use TurtleStitch with undergraduate students to explore beginning programming and reflect on learning. Here's my new lab for doing TurtleStitch. This is the main Interactive Media Arts lab for fabrication. And everything we do with textiles and computer-controlled embroidery and TurtleStitch is embedded in this culture of fabrication. This is actually the first computer program of any kind that this student made. They wanted to make this Chinese character. And here is their program in Snap, and they adapted it to TurtleStitch. In the TurtleStitch community, we emphasize bugs and debugging. This student shows that because in their write-up about the project, they really emphasize and showed us their process of finding an interesting bug and what they did to debug it. In my 2021 class called Learning with Turtles, we worked extensively with TurtleStitch. The students had a brief to work in pairs to make pages of a soft book for the class, and we made multiple copies. So you can see, not only did students choose design and programming patterns and learn how to do them, but there's myriad things to choose from when you're doing TurtleStitch that are about the real materials, like what kind of cloth, what kind of stabilizers, what kind of threads, how to make finishes, how much sewing to do. I arrived in the TurtleStitch community because I've been involved in logo and turtle graphics all the way back to my own childhood. And I really like the generosity of the community and how much we talk to each other, both through the website and exchange ideas. I've worked with textiles, sewing, designing clothes. I've had a boutique clothing business that made an innovative fabric material. I love the tools of sewing and textiles. So I have great tools, like these really excellent shears for fabric, different kinds of marking tools, like this one. Learning about what the best embroidery needles. This is a spline for measuring curves. And I just learned this, it's a spool net, and you can put it on your spool of thread, and it makes the thread come off more smoothly for sewing with these large, and embroidering with these large spools of thread. Embroidery has really rich tradition, and it can make anything from a thin trail of thread to almost making new fabric by covering the fabric in embellishment. And it's one of the areas of textile craft that I did not know as well at all before I started working with TurtleStitch as I know about sewing, tailoring, and fabric manufacturing. So TurtleStitch got me to connect with examples ranging from Chinese minority embroidery styles to United States' 1960s embellished blue jeans.
With Margaret Minsky talking from the Interactive Media Arts program, we somehow close the circle and come back to the beginning of the presentation when I talked about our first experimental artistic steps with TurtleStitch. What I found especially attractive in Margaret Minsky's video was the moment when she was talking about the material, when she was opening the soft book, touching the cone of thread, and so on. So in the preparation for this keynote, I was reading about this fact of getting attracted by looking at physical things. It's a known fact, of course, and it's used everywhere in advertising, for example. However, this kind of attraction combined with curiosity makes us to enter new fields and explore new things. I guess this emotional component is also what lets people explore TurtleStitch. So I think this would be a great field for further research, what also brings us to the next point upcoming. Challenges and next steps upcoming. Boring as always, but necessary financing. So we will continue to care about getting funding, writing reports in order to get development done. We got a lot of input from Jens' keynote from the first conference day. And I think there will be some issues we will discuss and decide. Not touched by this is to improve community management. We always have got to think about what tools to use in order to stay connected and to support us in the best way, thinking about practices and actions